What's up, guys? Rick here with your preview for this week's Rocket Classic, not the Rocket Mortgage Classic. They dumped that. Now just the Rocket Classic, Detroit Golf Club. Before we get into that, last week, my God, awesome. Just truly spectacular. I'm still in Ponte Vedra if you're watching on YouTube, so I'm flying out of Florida here shortly. So bear with me. I'm on my laptop and all that fun stuff. But just an incredible week at the Travelers, and doing stuff for PGA Tour Live was a blast as usual. We filled the RickRunGood Listener League on Splash Sports pretty early last week. I think if we fill this one for Detroit, we're probably going to have to start asking for more money on this, right? So this is $25,000 guaranteed every single week. It's only a $25 entry, so somebody wins $3,100, and it's got a pretty flat payout structure. I think we might have to go for $30K if we can fill this one up, because we're going to run through, Genesis, the Scottish Open. We're going to have the Open Championship. We're going to have playoff events. Start building this up for the next couple of weeks here. Might have to ask for a little bit more money. So links in the description for that. If you want to get in early, because they are filling quite a bit. It's already 20% full, and it's Monday morning, and I'm on the East Coast this time. So I think this is going to fill again pretty quickly here. Let's talk about Detroit Golf Club. This is actually a course where I don't necessarily agree with the correlation model, and it's not way off for me, but I have an opinion that doesn't necessarily align with the stats, which is crazy. That doesn't happen very often. So Detroit Golf Club, this is fifth or sixth year. This is one of the newer events on the PGA Tour. 3M Open and the Rocket Classic came in at the same time. This is a vintage Donald Ross, and they are going to restore this back to some of the original stuff after this year. So this will be the last year in its current form, and then you're going to see, I think they're making the greens a little bit bigger. They're changing some tee boxes. They're doing some things to restore it back to the original Donald Ross vision. So that will obviously change our handicapping moving forward, but still good for right now. And this is historically, hot and like scoring birdie fest, right? You're going to be in Detroit in the summertime. This is the flattest golf course on the PGA Tour. That is like based on shot length. That's not really an opinion of mine. This is a golf course where we have just seen players bomb and gouge it, right? Just go and hit as far off the tee as you can. There is not a lot of trouble off the tee. The rough is not super penal, and then you are just going to have to make a ton of birdies. So the correlation model, I mean, it does an okay job of reflecting what my vision is, which, it says driving distance is more important than driving accuracy. It actually ranks pretty low in terms of strokes gained approach. Now, this is where I always like to point out, strokes gained approach is getting a rank of 40, which means there's only 12 courses where strokes gained approach has been less correlated with success than Detroit Golf Club. But the value of approach, 0.18, is still higher than driving distance. It's still higher than putting, even though those ranks are higher, because those are relative to the stat. Strokes gained approach is always valuable, but comparing strokes gained approach at different golf courses, that's where the rank becomes important. So I do want to point that out. Weeks like this, weeks where approach ranks low, I want to point out the value is still quite high, just not as high as other places. So I tend to think of this place as driving distance, wedge play, even approaches from the rough a little bit, because it doesn't matter if you hit the fairway or not. And then how many putts can you make, birdie or better? And strokes gained putting does rank pretty highly here, 16th on tour, which means there's only 15 other courses in which strokes gained putting is more important. I think these secondary stats really do start to bear out what I think of, right? So you've got approaches from 150 to 175 from the rough, 250 to 275 from the rough. That's basically par 5 scoring. Putting from 9 feet. Why 9? Again, these are noisy stats by themselves, but why 9? Well, 9 is approximately where these become 50-50 putts on the PGA Tour. It's actually 7 feet 10 inches, but 8 feet, 9 feet, that's that 60-40 range, where if you can make more of those than your peers, you're picking up a lot of strokes on your peers, right? And they are makeable putts. So then you get total putting, total birdies, scrambling from 10 to 20 yards. Again, that is probably a par 5 scoring stat when you look at it that way. Greens and regulation percentage, putting from 5 feet, par 3 scoring average, a lot of scoring metrics, a lot of putting metrics, a lot of the ability to get the ball in the hole more efficiently than your peers. Obviously, that's the game plan here, but and everywhere, obviously, but you can't miss putts out here. You just can't do it. You're gonna have to go pretty low. Now, what's interesting about this is the adjusted fit model. It's not really the top guys. Now there are, I mean, Keith Mitchell always models well for golf courses. Patrick Cantlay is up there. Colin Morikawa, Keegan Bradley, they are in the top 15 or 20. But normally you'd see this, and Scotty's not here, but it would be like Scotty, Rory, Morikawa, right? Like it would be a star-studded adjusted course fit. But because of the nature of this model, look at the types of players who are the best adjusted fit over the last 36 rounds. Cam Champ, that passes the eye test. Harry Hall, absolutely. Ben Griffin, sure. Matt McCarty and Sam Ryder are your top 5. Then you get guys like Jake Knapp, who are in the top 10. Vince Whaley, who, is kind of a one-trick pony at this point. He's in there. This is a very interesting week to try to handicap. We've been on a run of big events. Some of these guys we have not seen since the U.S. Open, and some guys we haven't seen from before the U.S. Open because they didn't get into the U.S. Open. They did not get into the Travelers Championship as a signature event. And on top of that, this is actually one of the stronger fields that the Rocket Classic has had in the last handful of years. To get Morikawa, to get Cantlay, to get, Keegan as of right now is still in this field. I don't know if he will WD or if he will honor this commitment. I tend to lean towards the latter, but I don't know. Fresh off the win at Traveler, so we'll see what happens here. But we'll model this out in the custom model here in just a few minutes after we go through the field. But it's a very interesting, fun week to try to handicap because of all the different types of players and rest time that we're coming in off of.
Golf season has kicked off, and there's no better place to sweat the action than DraftKings Daily Fantasy, the ultimate destination for fantasy golf fans. Right now, DraftKings is giving new customers a chance to play free for their share of millions in prizes with their first deposit on the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app. It's simple to play. Build your dream lineup while staying under the salary cap, then sit back and watch as your players rack up points. Every birdie, every bogey, every clutch putt, feel the intensity of every shot. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app and enter promo code RickDFS to play free for your share of millions with your first deposit. That's RickDFS for new DraftKings customers. Just download the Daily Fantasy app today. The crown is yours.
All right, here we go. The cheat sheet on RickRunGood.com, and there are 3 golfers over $10,000. Admittedly, I'm not super stoked about any of these guys. Colin Morikawa, 10-9, Keegan Bradley, 10-4, Patrick Cantlay, 10-2. I'll just say as of right now, Keegan Bradley is still in this golf tournament. I don't know if he will uphold his commitment to Detroit. I suspect he will in a year that he's Ryder Cup captain and building up a lot of goodwill all over the country. I imagine he's going to play, but we've seen guys who withdrawal after a victory because all the obligations, getting out of town late, you're tired, all that stuff. If Keegan does end up playing this week, his results around Detroit Golf Club are okay. He probably has always been one of the better players in the field. He has one top 20 finish, T14, T21 are his 2 best finishes. He's never missed a cut. It's nothing spectacular. I don't think it's the greatest course fit in the world for him. And despite what he's been doing, I think might be a little rundown after that victory. Colin Morikawa by far, to me, the best player in this field. However, still plenty of concerns over the fact of will he make enough putts to win this golf tournament? Loses 9 strokes putting at the U.S. Open, loses 1.3 at the Travelers. The ball striking, the approach play actually wasn't even very good at the Travelers either. Starting to get a little bit worried about some things in the advanced metrics profile for Colin. Maybe he's coming here and trying to beat up on a weaker field at a place that he's had success at. T2 here in 2023 in his only start. But man, a birdie fest for a guy who's lost 10 strokes putting over the course of his last 8 rounds is probably not the greatest thing in the world. And then Patrick Cantlay, maybe this is the place where he snaps off and finds his victory. He's only played here once, and he's finished T2 in 2022. Advanced metrics are good. Strokes gained dog in him, maybe not so much, but I think that the way that I see the top of the board right now, we'll know more on Wednesday during the live chat about what the projected ownership is going to be. I'm not super thrilled about clicking any of these names at the top, and I think that there's a lot of better builds that we can get starting in the 9K range. Could you convince me on Patrick Cantlay? Probably. If Colin Morikawa comes in super low owned, I'm a kind of a Morikawa truther. I would probably get there, but not super stoked about it. And then Keegan's awesome. I just don't think this is the greatest fit in the world for him. The 9K range though has a lot of really good options. So let me start with Cam Young. So to be able to go from a golf course that is precision based to power based obviously helps Cam Young. Building frustration at TPC River Highlands, we saw it all week long. The positive takeaways are he was a very good putter for the first 3 days. Over the course of all 4, he gained 3.5 strokes to the field. That part of his game has been phenomenal for the last 7 starts. The driver has been very good. The approach play is coming back into form. He's on a really good run since the Masters. T7 at Truist, back-to-back T4 finishes at the Canadian Open and the US Open. The worst finish during that stretch are on 2 golf courses that are more positional golf courses, right? Harbor Town and TPC River Highlands. Those are his two worst finishes. So going to a golf course where he should be able to cut it loose a little bit more, I think is a really big boost for Cam Young headed into this week. So I'm quite happy to go there. Just another week where a guy will try to snap through and get his first PGA Tour victory. Outside of that, Harry Hall, if you missed, very sneaky, quiet run up the leaderboard at the end of last week. He ends up finishing T9 in a week where he lost strokes off the tee every single day, and that is thanks to the way he putts it. He's one of the best putters on the PGA Tour. You're going to have to make a lot of birdies. You're going to have to make a ton of birdies. Harry hasn't missed a cut since the Players. Harry's last 5 are 5 top 25 finishes, and 2 of them are top 10s. And we're talking all over the place. Myrtle Beach, Quail Hollow, Colonial, TPC Toronto, TPC River Highlands. Not a lot of through lines across all of those golf courses, which is a really good sign for Harry, who has improved his driving over the course of the last year or so, but he can still get a little loose. That is probably not as big of a penalty this week. I think that this golf course would actually magnify some of Harry Hall's strengths. Additionally, same goes for Max Grazerman. Max Grazerman is the rare driver putting guy, and he's really struggled on the putting surfaces over his last 3 starts. So this is probably the worst putting stretch we've seen out of him in his young career. Loses 2 strokes putting at Muirfield Village, loses nearly 4 at Oakmont, and loses nearly 2 last week at the Travelers Championship. But guess what? Those finishes were T25, T23, and T36. So that's 2 signature events and a major championship. And now he's going to the weakest field that he's played in quite some time, probably still brimming with a lot of confidence. The rest of his game is very, very sharp. And there is a lot of room to get back to his putting expectation when he gets to Detroit Golf Club, where he's played once and he picked up 3.6 strokes putting in that trip. I'm wondering if I can find him quickly on the breakouts candidate chart here. I'm looking for Max Grazerman's name. Where is your name? Don't make me search him. I thought I could do this very quickly. Sometimes their labels get covered up by another golfer. All right, let's try to do it this way. I'm going to sort by salary here and see if I can find Max Grazerman, because I want to see, okay. So Max Grazerman's last 36 rounds, compared to his 100-round baseline, he is a quarter of a stroke per round below his baseline. That is a lot. Tee to green, he's up 0.12. That's very good. Continues the rest of playing well. So he is probably falling into the... he's probably in... Where would he be? This range, he's probably in this group of Akshay Bhatia, Matt McCarty, just below those 4 names right there. Thomas Rosenmuller, Kevin Velo. Yeah, he's getting covered. Oh, here he is. He's getting covered up by somebody. He's getting covered up by Wyndham Clark and Alex Smalley. He's right over here. So in the good quadrant that we would want him to be in here. And like I said, I mean the regression or progression, I don't know if that's the right word, back to his baseline would be very good and quite reasonable for Max Grazerman. Not anywhere done in this 9K range just yet. We'll say Luke Clanton is starting to show a little bit of signs of concern, very small. Nothing for the long term, just small for the short term. Had him on featured groups at PGA Tour Live, so saw a lot of the shots that he hit. It wasn't good. Lost strokes off the tee every single day. Seemed to be questioning a lot of the way the contact was. A lot of looking at the golf club. Just a lot of bad swings, one-handed finishes for a guy who already is pretty raw on and around the putting surfaces. He's got to be that stroke per round or stroke and a half per round ball striker that we saw for the first 10 or 12 starts as an amateur on the PGA Tour, and he's got to get back to that. So that's a little bit concerning there. If again, the most quiet T14 finish for Ben Griffin, just was never in the mix and piled up another top 15. Almost pitched his fifth straight complete game. Is that what we're calling it? I got a lot of really good, a lot of like Hulk Slam, Stat Sweep. I got like a lot of really good suggestions. The one that I think I like the most when you gain throughout the bag is like a complete game. That I think it makes sense. There's the parallel to baseball, but it also makes sense for a golf stat. That might end up being the winner, but almost pitched another one here. Lost 1.7 strokes around the green. Ben Griffin has been the best player in the world in the last 36 rounds, or best player in this field over the last 36 rounds by a pretty significant margin. 1.7 strokes gained per round. It's nearly a half stroke better than both Keegan Bradley and Harry Hall. And of course, Keegan gets the benefit of that win there. So there's an argument to be made that Ben Griffin is the most mispriced golfer in this field. $9,800. Metrics are there. Great setup for him. All that fun stuff. And then as if there wasn't anything more to talk about in the 9K range, pedigree-wise, Hideki Matsuyama is the best player. Driving struggles a bit. He's never really putted these greens very well. I will probably forego Hideki Matsuyama and pile in all these other guys, Cam Young and Grazerman and Hall and Griffin, and just rock with them and probably build a lot of lineups that start in the 9K range and have 2 or 3 of those guys. But yeah, I mean, if you're trying to catch Hideki in the right spot and that's what you're looking for, would not be upset at all if you want to go that route. The 8K range is not nearly as fun, but there's some interesting things to discuss here, both good and bad. Tony Finau is $8,900 and is hemorrhaging strokes off the tee, which is probably something that I've not said about Tony Finau a lot in his career. He won this event in 2022. He missed the cut in 2023. Those are the two most recent times that he played it. But there was a stat that I pulled, I guess it was for the U.S. Open earlier, where he is just, I mean, he's getting older, right? Still very young, but by golf standards, getting older, and he's losing the club head speed, he's losing the ball speed. He's one of the few guys trending down in those categories. He lost 3 strokes off the tee, 4 strokes, and 6 strokes off the tee in his 3 most recent starts. The putter is a huge problem. Maybe there is a path for him to just get it in play because there's not a lot of trouble off the tee at Detroit Golf Club, but that still would require him to start making some putts. It would require him to change a lot of things. I don't know if I'm setting sail his victory here by saying this, but he might be the most mispriced golfer. He might be the bad bet of the week or the bad buy of the week, considering the fact that he's $8,900. He's priced in a spot where there's a lot of really good players around him, and he is doing all the things that you do not like to see. Chris Gotterup, however, $8,000. Missed the cut at the Canadian Open. Outside of that's been splendid. A bunch of top 25 finishes. Last time we saw him was Oakmont. He did not play the Travelers Championship. That was probably not going to be a good venue for him anyway. Think about the archetype of player who has had success at Detroit Golf Club, and Chris Gotterup would fit right into that. Blast it, go find it, and oh, by the way, he's not really a one-trick pony anymore. He's been putting together a lot of really good finishes. He's only $8,000. This is a little bit crazy, but I think Matt Fitzpatrick might be a good buy. $8,400, and he has started to plug the leaks. The T17 at the Travelers Championship, losing 2 strokes putting, was a very good sign for me, because a lot of his good results recently were a bit more dependent on the flat stick, and now we're starting to see that he's been strong from tee to green in 3 out of his last 5 measured events. The dark red across the board is starting to turn green and plug those things right on up. And I think that in the same way that you kind of trust Keegan Bradley, and I think I probably said this last week, like to grind for you for all 4 rounds, I do trust Matt Fitzpatrick to grind for you, and he's got a ton to play for. He's like, he needs to start accumulating points and dollars and all that fun stuff. I want to finally look at Wyndham Clark here and see how he played, because he was in the mix for a bit at the Travelers Championship. Still a little inconsistent. Two really bad rounds. He goes to a T17, but I wanted to look at his advanced metrics, and they're pretty strong. Do I trust him to be able to continue doing this? No, probably not, but I'd almost prefer Wyndham Clark over Hideki Matsuyama, considering the price and the fact that they're both incredibly volatile, and the fact that they are both have winning upside if they get there. So Wyndham Clark putting together a better stat profile than Hideki in the immediate short term. I wouldn't mind that for only $8,600, trying to run him out there as well. These type of events just breed a 7K range of decent flyers, and it's no different here. So I'm probably going to point out a bunch of these guys here. Alex Noren at $7,800. The miscut Canadian Opens is only miscut since this event last year. His success at this event is checkered. 2 miscuts, but 2 top 9 finishes dating back to 2020. He is well-rounded, can get the hot putter. Don't mind him here whatsoever. Taylor Moore, I buy the Taylor Moore getting back to playing better golf. It's not all the time. Played well at Myrtle Beach, played well at the PGA Championship, had that little slump before, but played 3 events before, but played well to start off 2025. So he's clearly searching, and to be able to go back to a place where you've gone 6th, 4th, and 10th in your last 3 years is a place where if you're looking for confidence, this is your spot to find confidence. So I definitely think that there is enough there. I wrote about this in my newsletter as well recently. Emiliano Grillo is back to being the king of no putt, which is I'm always in for, right? His tee to green numbers are awesome. Has been a big gainer in 5 in a row. The results are following. T20 at Myrtle Beach, T16 at Charles Schwab, T24 at the Canadian Open, and T19 at the US Open, and picked up strokes putting at the US Open, picked up strokes putting at the Charles Schwab. He hasn't played this event since 2021, so I think we can throw all of that out the window. This is vintage Emiliano Grillo stat profile. Jake Knapp getting to play a golf course where his distance and lack of accuracy is rewarded and or not penalized. Awesome. Love Jake Knapp. He's a prolific birdie maker when he gets it going. Rico Hoey, same thing. Haven't seen him since the Canadian Open. Finished T36 there. He's going to gain like 3 or 4 strokes off the tee. He's got that level of baseline. The rest of his game does not always follow suit. Eric Van Rooyen has missed his last 2 cuts, but missed them both on the number. So he actually gained strokes to the field in both of those missed cuts. So he has gained strokes to the field in 6 out of 7, including his runner-up finish at the Byron Nelson, and 3 of those are missed cuts. So, very close to getting into a lot of these weekends and playing better than more than half the field, but not getting through. The last time we saw him at Detroit Golf Club, he finished T6. Ricky Castillo was the shiny new object who, was on this great run before missing the cut at the Canadian Open. Same thing. Gained strokes to the field, missed the cut. I don't care about that. He lost a stroke putting. Look at the rest of these metrics. Another guy who has just been, it's all green, even on the missed cuts. So he's gained strokes to the field in 8 of 9. 2 of them are missed cuts as well. So very similar story to EVR. The play is a lot better than I think what the results are indicating, and he has that baseline of honestly pretty strong tee to green play. He hasn't lost strokes tee to green since the Mexico Open, and he lost a half a stroke tee to green in that week. So that's exciting stuff. And then Cam, or excuse me, not Cam. Oh, I'll get to Cam. Okay, we'll do Cam Champ. It's going to be. It might be a tough watch. And I had someone in a live chat, I guess it was for the Canadian Open. I was like, is Cam Champ a good play? And I was like, no, horrible play. What are you thinking? You're an idiot. Finished T9, picked up 8.5 strokes to the field, pitched a complete game. Do we like that? Upside is unmatched. Floor is unmatched. This is, I've said this about Taylor Pendrith. I've said this about Cam Davis. If there's a course I could design for Cam Champ, it would look a lot like Detroit Golf Club. Okay, so that's now I'm trying to take one nugget, which usually he drops one nugget and continues to, he's not a streaky player who does it for 4 or 5 weeks in a row, but he can usually give us a couple of starts in a row, 2, 3, maybe. We get one at the Canadian Open. We go to a really good golf course for him. Cam Champ. Austin Eckroat. I mean, Austin Eckroat's in all these signature events. Austin Eckroat cannot putt to save his life, but can get scorching hot. The tee to green play, especially over the first 2 rounds of the Travelers, was awesome. He ended up gaining 5.2 strokes to the field. Excuse me. Last 2 trips to Detroit were 2023 and 2021. Missed the cut in both of those. He's a flat $7,000. I think there's a pretty significant drop off from the 7K range to the 6K range where, especially if you're not playing the guys at the 10K range, you could almost stop at the 7Ks and you could, finish it off with Eckroat or Cam Champ or Celinda or whatever you want to do there and not have to go on down to that 6K range. We'll obviously continue, but I think, he's kind of, I have a feeling that he's going to be my last man in a lot of lineups. We're going to be really selective in this 6K range. We're going to look at somebody like Tristan Lawrence, who's $6,900, who the last time we saw him was finishing T12 at the US Open, pitched a complete game there. He played in Europe 2 starts before that, the Sodal Open, finished T4. A lot of miscuts leading up to this stretch, but his last 3 have been if you're watching on YouTube right now, much better statistical profiles compared to just the horrific stuff that we were seeing to start 2025. He finished 2024 great, and then the first 6 months of 2025 have been miserable. The last 3 starts have been a lot better. Noah Goodwin is here. A small sample, but he finished T21 at the KFT Advent Health Championship, and then he played the Canadian Open, which is a much better field, and finished T18 there. And he still lost a stroke on approach, but I've got a decent bit of tournaments from him where he's been very solid on approach. Yes, it can get away from him. He lost 6 strokes at Torrey Pines. He lost 3 at Valspar, but when he loses otherwise, it's 1 half, or he picks up 1 or 2. And the rest of his game is pretty solid. So I think that is fair for $6,400. Outside of that, I'm a sicko, so like Alejandro Tosti is kind of interesting. That might end the list. I don't want to have to get down here as much. I want to see what the model has to say. So let's run a model here, and we've got to do weighted strokes gained total for 20. That's our baseline for fields like this, right? And then we are going to do, should we follow my eye test or should we follow, all right, well, let's just do scoring first off. I want birdies or better gained for 25. Then driving, I'll put 15 on distance. 15 on distance. Approach play. Could do opportunities. Let's do 10 on opportunities plus, which is shots inside 10 feet. We'll go with that like 9-foot putting thing. Then we'll do strokes gained putting last 36 for 10. I did want to put 10 on strokes gained approach last 50. And then I'm going to round this out with Detroit Golf Club history. My number one golfer is Jake Knapp. Luke Clinton is 2. Ben Griffin is 3. I'm just gonna find my way to betting Ben Griffin this week. I have a feeling. Keith Mitchell is 4. Cam Young is 5. Keegan is 6. Harry Hall is 7. Cantlay is 8. Kevin Yu is 9. I think he might have just withdrawn. I got a notification during this show. Let me see here. Did Kevin Yu just withdraw? Yes, he did. So I will remove him. He did that while this show was going on. So Kevin Yu withdrew. Eric Cole withdrew during this show. So I'll remove them from the website, but wanted to give you an update there. Then Kurt Kitayama is number 10, or I guess actually number 9, because he moves up to Kevin Yu's spot, and then Akshay Patia fills in my number 10. Yeah, Colin Morikawa, not, he's 12th, which is good, but like I just don't think this is a particularly great fit for him. The 3 guys in the 10K range for me are 6th, 8th, and 12th. They're still very much the best players in this field. I just don't think they get a tremendous boost. All right, to the airport I go. It's going to be a fun week. Live chat's back on Wednesday, normal time, headed home. Very excited about that. Yeah, thank you guys. Much appreciated. Love to do this on the road. Love to have my laptop and I can do this. I'm just I swear I'm not being held hostage in this room. I know it looks like it, but maybe get some decorations for next time. All right, talk to you guys. Good luck.